Welcome to my review for 3D Game Heroes on the PS3. 3D Game Heroes seems built as an homage to The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, which I have played, even though I'm not a big fan of these types of games, generally speaking. However, like that one, it did offer some fun. You can see how this game pays respects to the Super Nintendo version, with many of the elements that's been included. These are things such as the dialogue that you can have with many characters, some being valuable, some being useless, and some has been twisted to kind of be making fun of itself. When you think of the weapon and inventory system, it's also quite similar. Of course, your main weapon being a sword, which you can find many different types of swords in the games. You can tell by my inventory screen here that really, I've barely collected any of the swords that are out there. Luckily, I've collected enough powerful swords to see me through to the end. The swords do have attributes that can be upgraded. These include simple ones like the ability to swing the sword, as opposed to just jutting it forward. And you can also increase the width of your sword, length of your sword, and strength of the sword. Each sword does have a limit to how much can be upgraded, so in some cases you'll find yourself choosing, do I want the sword to have a greater range, or do I want it to be stronger? The trick to keeping your sword powerful is making sure that your life bar, your hearts, are completely filled up. If you're missing even half a heart, your sword goes to what I guess you could call more realistic or regular mode. When you have full hearts, the sword is at full strength and full reach. There's also a variety of shields to collect. You also have the option to use a bow and arrow, bombs, and there's magic spells to use as well. In the game, an evil sorcerer is threatening to take over the world and plunge it into a time of darkness, so of course you, being a descendant of a great hero, is the only one entrusted to stop this evil villain. The game is set up with main quests and side quests. The main quest has you searching the land to find these temples, and once you're inside the temples you have to work through the maze of rooms to get to the end boss, and then of course finally defeat the boss. You are provided with both a map of the world and a map when you're inside the temple, but because the map of the world doesn't get too granular, it's more of a big overview, it can still make it complicated to navigate the labyrinth-like terrain. I found myself easily lost in the desert area. Castles were a little bit different. They are also set up as mazes with switch puzzles. And they do get progressively more challenging, although I did find one in the middle, which I think was called the Fire Temple, to be the most difficult to get through. And it's not so much difficult in terms of combat skills, as it is in terms of knowing where you're supposed to go and which switch needs to get hit so that you can go back to where you were 5 rooms before. So now that wall has opened up so you can get through to the next room, which lets you hit another switch where you have to go back another 7 rooms to a different side of the temple to get through there and then fall through a hole, and it gets very complicated. The bosses are also very challenging at times. They'll range from enormous squids to fire-breathing dragons to huge sea serpents to giant knights, and they all play a little bit differently. As mentioned, there are plenty of side quests to complete. At least I remember a lot of people asking me to do things for them. But one of the issues is that you don't get a list of the things that you need to do. In the 20 hours or so it took me to complete the game, I did stop halfway through and ended up not coming back to it for a couple months. So in between, I've forgotten everything that everyone has asked me to do, and the map provides no help in terms of telling you where certain people are that have asked you to complete side quests. In that sense, the game really seems to ask a lot of the player if they want to complete the entire game, which I guess makes sense if you want to make sure they feel a great sense of accomplishment out of it. But it's so much more about memorizing where everybody is and what everybody needs, as opposed to actually going out and doing what needs to be done. For example, there's one quest where I've been asked to kill so many of these silver slugs that are lying around the land. I believe I've done that, but I can't remember where the guy is that asked me to do it, so I can't go back to see if I've killed enough of them. Even recording footage for this video, I ended up accidentally completing a couple side missions just by chance. I happened to stumble into the right person or walk into the right cave. So to really get a strong grasp of who needs what, where everybody is, and where everything is, you'll find it will require a lot of effort. The occasional sense of confusion and feeling of being lost adds some tediousness to the game. When you're getting by all that and you find yourself on track, knowing where to go, the challenge, the visual style, and the gameplay really kicks in to make it an enjoyable experience.